whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Happy Tuesday. This is the Nikki Medoro Show, live on YouTube. Anytime you want a little bit of Nikki in your life. Freezing my booty butt off today. I hope you guys are staying nice and dry. We'll get an update on the storm and the high winds that are expected again. We have a fun show coming up. We're going to start off by talking about that CDC fungal threat. Candida auris is what it's called. It's this like fungus. Maybe like lives on the skin. We'll talk a little bit about it. And it's interesting, both Kim McAllister and Calvin always sends in a ton of stories. So thank you, Calvin, was sending like the whole idea that this reminds us of Last of Us. So is it giving you Last of Us vibes? And we're also going to debate that season finale. So this is your spoiler alert. I mean, the season finale happened what? More than a week ago. Yeah, a week from this past Sunday. So you guys could have watched it. We need to debate it now, okay? And I want to ask you if you would have done what Joel did in the season finale of Last of Us. Also, mental health. The cast of Ted Lasso, remember they went to the White House yesterday and spoke with President Biden. I'll have Jason Sudeikis's press conference, sort of, kind of. But he makes a great statement about mental health, and there's a little funny bit at the end that you won't want to miss. Also, we're going to talk about the Dominion lawsuit. Now, the Dominion lawsuit, you'll remember, it's brought in Fox News. A lot of Fox News hosts are being called out for spreading the lie about voter fraud in the last election. Well, the producer of one of those shows is saying, it's not my fault. And you trying to hold me accountable in the Dominion lawsuit is sexist and misogynistic. So I'll kind of lay out a little bit of her case, and then you tell me if that's actually sexist. Florida doesn't want students who are of the age to get their periods to talk about getting their periods. The sound of this question surrounding this bill is absolutely insane. So I'll have a little bit of that. And then towards the end of the show, I want to ask this question about success, and especially when we talk about women who are successful. How long should they share the wealth? And the reason why I ask it in that way is the writer behind Mean Girls. Remember, she paired up with Tina Fey, who was in the movie Mean Girls. Well, she's kind of calling out Tina Fey for not continuing to share the wealth of what came from her story, Mean Girls. And so does she have kind of this valid point about sharing the wealth? Or is there just a point where, you created something, you handed it off to somebody else, and they are free to do with it as they please? So that's all coming up. But first, let's click that thumbs up button. Show some support of the show. We really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button right down there. The super chat is also live. We are 100% crowdfunded, guys. So any sort of revenue or income that we make off the show is because of you guys and your support. So you can support us during the show, during the super chat. Just look for the $sign under the chat, the live chat box, and you can throw us a super comment, a super thanks, a super sticker, and it really helps us out. The big, huge, gigantic way that you can really support the show, of course, is becoming a monthly subscriber to our Patreon. Now, the link's right there on your screen, thenikkimedoroshow.com. You'll find a link to the Patreon. You'll find a link to some of our most recent YouTube shows. If you want to just listen and not watch, we are on all the podcast streaming apps. So just look for the Nikki Medoro Show there, and you can also subscribe that way. We do have PayPal for those that like to use PayPal. The Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com is up there. And then, of course, our merchandise, the Nikki Medoro Shop.com is happening as well. I do want to show you guys before we get into the CDC warning, because of the storm, I'm in San Jose and the rain just has not stopped. And PG&E is getting prepared because we're expecting very high winds. San Benito County, Monterey, all these places that are not doing well or are planning and having to deal with a lot of this. We're talking gusts 40, 75 miles per hour. But look at this. This is kind of an insane image. Hold on. I want to bring it up because you really don't anticipate people thinking this far outside the box. Now, you'll remember that there's some levee breaks that have been happening. This was a levee breach in Tulare Lake. Okay. Look what they did. Let me share my screen to kind of plug the levee. All right. You guys ready to see this? They drove their truck in there. You know what? Look. So it's kind of staying there.
Baby, stop right there.
Yes.
Yep. Blocking the water. Yeah. So that was just one of the videos that was shared with me recently. This was in Car and Driver. Now, this was posted on March 15th. The problem with the long drain to Tulare Lake is that it likes to reappear after the heavy rains. And so when the levee failed, local farmers decided to drive a couple of trucks into the levee. And if you're saying to yourself, well, that's a ridiculous idea, look at these other pictures of how well it worked. So here's the hole that they were trying to block, right? And here is it after. It seems to be kind of holding. You'll see it off there in the distance of that picture. You got to think outside the box sometimes. Obviously, it's not the best thing that they want to do. Oh, Grady's saying it's old. It's like a week old. Sorry, I was posting in Car and Driver on the 15th. It's still freaking interesting, Grady. But I just think thinking outside the box is kind of funny, especially when you have people down in the Central Valley trying to come up with their own ways because they're done waiting for the government help. Let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show, who did an amazing job filling in for the Mark Thompson.
You ditched me. You were supposed to come on at the end.
I know. And my right before I'm like, oh, shoot. I forgot to come on. I apologize, my friend. I apologize. I was busy making my kind of teaser video. And then when it was done, I was like, shoot, I was supposed to go on with Kim McAllister.
That's okay. Maybe you can do it tomorrow.
I apologize. I will do it tomorrow.
Okay.
I need a reminder. I should have had a reminder, but I apologize, my friend. I'm always there for you. I apologize. But I want to get into the show of all shows, your now favorite show, The Last of Us.
Oh.
And is The Last of Us, my friend, coming true? So the CDC has come out with this warning of a potentially dangerous fungus. It's called Candida auris. Candida auris is the name of this fungus. I have a little bit of a picture here for you. There. This is what it looks like under a microscope.
It's The Last of Us. We have arrived. Pretty soon we'll all be eating each other.
Oh, well, I don't know about all that. But let's just start off with the facts of the case. Okay. So apparently this has been happening for a while, but it's becoming a bigger public health threat. And the reason why it is one, the number of cases is jumping up, and it's also resistant to a lot of antifungal medications. If you're healthy, it really shouldn't harm you that much. It can live on your skin or what have you, and it's okay. But of course, all of the people with compromised immune systems are at risk. So it can cause serious illness. It can even cause death in people who are already sick. About 30 to 60% of infected people have died from the yeast, although it's only based on a limited number of patients and the causation is a little questionable right there, but they are sounding the alarm. Candida auris has been reported in more than 30 countries. It was first detected in this country, in the US, in 2016. Between 2016 and December of 2021, there have been about 3,300 clinical cases. where patients were infected. They screened about 7,400, and it can be spread very quickly.
No, and antibiotics don't work.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Antifungal there are several antifungal medications that don't work. So it's basically like you got to isolate these people and hope that they recover. And if you don't have the sort of medication for it, we could be, in deep doo-doo, as they say.
What I understand is that it is primarily contracted in healthcare settings. So
and nursing homes, of course.
nursing
right?
homes, hospitals. So, it's usually probably the elderly and the infirmed already that are at risk of this. And then, you put them in the settings, they're already kind of maybe more feeble, and then they contract this, and then it's party over.
Yeah. So the problem also is it can live on you and on your skin for years. So it's really difficult to kind of get rid of it. There's other things that come from healthcare settings. MRSA is kind of one of those antibiotic resistant viruses. They're just becoming smarter. These viruses are becoming smarter. They're adapting. And, while on one hand, yes, Candida auris is concerning, we need to just follow the best guidelines. I was reading on the CDC, proper cleaning in between. If you have somebody that has this, you have to isolate them. You have to notify everybody. I bring my daughter to the hospital every month, if not more. So it's definitely concerning to me. And if you work in healthcare and you come home and you live with somebody with a compromised immune system or something like that could put people, really, that can make people really concerned.
Well, they're saying one of the challenges of it is its ability to live on surfaces and persist on surfaces. So it's really hard, even if you wipe things down, to get rid of all of this stuff, and then there it is. The mortality rate of Candida auris estimated to be between 30 and 60%.
Is it Candida? I thought it was Candida.
Candida? I say Candida.
I don't know.
That's what I call the yeast as well. So I don't know.
It is a yeast though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this is a form of yeast. It's like a fungus, right? Whatever it's called, Candida or Candida.
Candida.
You don't want it. You definitely just do not want it on your skin. So, and also heed these warnings. I mean, I don't know what the average person that doesn't go to the hospital oftentimes is really supposed to do. But, we have to keep our eye on things like this because we don't want The Last of Us to come true.
Well, some people are comparing this yeast to The Last of Us, and they're like, look, see?
Yes.
But that fungus is actually a real fungus, and it's called cordyceps, right?
Okay.
And that fungus has actually infected bugs and does control them and does take over their little nervous system and everything else. So that is true. It has obviously not infected humans, but it can infect bugs and other species.
Yeah,
and
remember the opening scene of The Last of Us? They talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And then they can send, the sound waves or whatever. They can let fungus know in different parts of the world. And it's really, it's out there, but it's not, right? I mean, I think a lot of us before COVID couldn't really imagine a pandemic doing what it did. Right.
Yeah.
It was just, it's still in a way, Kim, blows my mind. Like it really does give me a pause of what we went through, what technically we're still going through. I mean, obviously not at the same extent. Everything isn't shut down anymore. Mask wearing is more of a personal, decision than a mandate. Right. But it does, when you watch shows like This Is Us, or This Is Us, The Last of Us. Somebody tweeted at me, This Is Us. I was like, This Is Us was a really heartwarming show. The Last of Us was complete opposite. But The Last of Us could be a possibility. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. The zombie part, the things living underground, whatever. But yeah, it's definitely something we need to think about.
Well, they're calling this Candida auris a serious global health threat that we need to take seriously. Yeah.
But I don't know what we're supposed to do about that. Like, I understand. That's why I keep asking. I'm like, okay, health professionals know, right? Nursing homes, hospitals, those sorts of things. What am I supposed to do, Kim?
When you take your daughter to the hospital.
Right. But outside of that, if like you don't go to the hospital, what are you supposed to do?
I think that you have to be very aware of what you're touching, when you're touching the keypad to enter in your, code at the store or
We're
whatever.
gonna get back to wiping everything down.
I always spray. The minute I get back to the car, I'm spraying my hands.
But does it work? I mean, you just mentioned a breath ago that a lot of these things don't even kill it. It lives on the surface.
I have to look into what can kill Candida auris versus what's going to give me cancer. Like how powerful, what kind of chemical does it need to be to kill this thing?
I was looking on the CDC website. Do I still have it up? So they list, it's like list P or something like that, the letter P. And they were mentioning all these things that can help kill it. And it was hydrogen peroxide and something else. So some sort of, I don't know, concoction can, I guess, help clean things up, but I don't think it's readily available in wipe form for the average person to use.
Right.
We're just a dirty species, isn't it? It's just like we're just gonna kill ourselves off. I'm not trying to be all Debbie Downer over here about it, but it just seems like it's filthy, touchy type of stuff that's gonna do us in. Okay, let's transition a little bit to the show though, and the ethics surrounding it. So God forbid something like this actually does something even in the realm of possibility of The Last of Us. Let's talk about the show's season finale. This is your spoiler alert, people. If you have not seen it, give me about 5 minutes or so, okay? So the season finale of This Is Us is with Joel.
The Last of Us. The Last of Us.
Why do I keep... See, it's because somebody messed me up. Okay, so it's the ethics surrounding what Joel did in The Last of Us, okay? And so what was happening was Ellie has some sort of immunity to this virus that is killing people, right? Or making them zombies or this fungus or whatever. So this immunity to the fungus and to the bites. She can get bit, she can get scratched, and she doesn't turn into a zombie. So we understand that everyone else, though, doesn't have this immunity. So Ellie is basically taken against her will, okay, and brought into this lab where they are planning to do something, harvest something from her brain to make some sort of antidote for everybody else. And Joel decides to basically brutally murder everybody and escape with Ellie, right? I mean, he killed everybody. And then really, in many people's minds, killed everybody because he prevented Ellie from being, experimented on and having her brain messed with because it would kill her, right? I mean, obviously they can't do it without killing her, but killing her would save humanity. What decision would you make? Would you make the same decision? Because I feel like on one hand, when I was watching the show, I was like, what are you doing, man? One person and then the rest of society. But then I was reading some of the analysis that makes one point that I think is hands down the best point. Ellie didn't have a say in it.
Right. She wasn't taken against her will. She walked in there completely like wanting to help save humanity. She was.
They did. Remember, they took her. She was knocked out and she was brought in.
Well, because once they, she was knocked out. Once they figured out that the only way to harvest the cordyceps from her brain would kill her, then of course, then it was against her will, probably. Right. And it was certainly against the will of those who loved her. And the thing about, and I forget the name of the character played, the man protecting her. Joel. The thing that Joel had promised her was, I will protect you. His whole job was to protect her. His job was not to protect humanity. His job was to protect her. And their relationship over time is like a father-daughter relationship. So obviously, he's not going to let them kill her. No way, Jose.
No. And I get why he didn't want to. And obviously, he was starting to see Ellie. I think he was seeing Ellie as his daughter, like a second daughter, because he had lost his first. Okay, let's go through some of these comments. I love Lori. She's gots to go. Sorry, kid. You're out.
You gotta go.
Al Anonymous says, it seems weird they can't make a cure just from her blood. Why do they need her brain? Because they had it was the whole crux of the situation, right? Is
Right.
of course it has to be your brain. It can't be a pinprick, can't be a hair, right? It has to be your brain.
They need the cordyceps, and apparently the cordyceps are in your brain. So they have to like, take your brain out in order to get to what they need.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know, Anonymous. It doesn't, there are plot holes, but just go with it.
I know. Well, of course there's plot holes, but my whole thing is, now Ellie understood that she was immune and that they were trying to figure out how she could help them come up with some sort of cure. But do you think if she knew, which she didn't, right? Because she was under, that she was going to die, that she still would have?
I think she would have given her life to save humanity.
Yeah.
I think
But
she
she'd
would have.
have
And
to
I
accept-
think that's why she questioned him so vociferously at the end.
yes.
Do you promise me? She said, do you promise me that this is what happens? She absolutely knows. And so I think that that she would have given her life, but he wasn't having it.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
If your child's life could
Exactly.
save all of humanity, would you give up your daughter or son? And offer
It
them
sounds
up
really
and say,
morbid. I don't think I'd be able to go back.
Here's my child, save humanity.
I feel like, and this is really morbid, and obviously, I would not want them to go alone. Does that make sense? Like, we all go together or we don't go at all. Like, I would not be able to sacrifice my own child's life unless I was sacrificing my own.
Wow, I'm shocked by what you just said, and I agree as well. I think
it's all because I probably don't want to die. I don't think I would be able to. I don't know. It matters the age also, right? If they were of an adultish age, then, and they were kind of making the decision, but a child?
We're not parents of adults yet. I think you still feel that way about your child. No matter whether you're 90 and your child is 60 or whatever it is, I still feel like that's still your baby.
But if your adult child was looking at you and saying, I want to do this, that's different than your child, like your little child saying, like Ellie age, no, you're not, you haven't lived life enough to make that decision and then, honestly, Kim, I'm like, really, do we want to save this society? I know that's really a cruel thing to say, but like, what are we saving? If we're in Last of Us, I mean, not this society, Last of Us, what am I saving? A world full of zombies or nutcases that have been murdering each other, right? I mean, the fireflies and everything like that's happening. What society am I saving over here? And I would rather live in, I don't know, peace and harmony in some deserted place than to sacrifice my child. But I think that also is a little selfish of me too. But I'm a kid, or they're my kid. I don't necessarily want to lose them for that.
Since we're talking about The Last of Us, I had a question about it, and I don't know if it was ever addressed, but I wonder how long it takes for the infected to die out.
Ooh, like that whole 28 days later question. I bet you never saw that movie either. So that's fine.
I did actually. So
you did? Okay.
I know. I got dragged to it. So if you could keep the uninfected segments of population safe long enough for this to die out and not have any new infections and have everyone that was infected croak, basically, then you wouldn't need to kill anyone.
Because remember when they went underneath, they were in the mall?
Right.
And there was that it seemed like all of the zombies were gone. And there was that one that seemed like it'd been there for quite a while. I bet because it's a fungus, it just lays dormant until something rattles it. You know what I'm saying?
Freaking me out.
Right? I don't think there's a death. It's like when they unearth, the deep frozen tundra, and all of a sudden it starts to melt and stuff starts coming alive again. It wasn't really dead. It was just dormant. And then.
So it lives in perpetuity is what you're saying? There's no getting away from it?
Yeah. I think
because if that's what you're trying to save, if the other thing is never going away,
I don't think so.
If the diseased zombie people are always going to be around, then I think that's the end of humanity. Then they're done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So am I going to sacrifice my kid for this nonsense? No, I'm going to keep my kid for as long as I can. Tony says too many people that don't give a damn about the person next to them for me to be okay with my child giving their life. I'm on the same wavelength as you. It's like, wait a minute. I don't necessarily want to give my child's life for a basket of deplorables, right? And I'm just saying that selfishly. I don't know what I would really do if I was in the situation. If somebody seriously looked at me and said, your child's life and millions of other people live. God, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I can't imagine giving up my child. I just
Lori
can't.
says little kids face cancer and unfortunately make some life and death decisions. Depends on the kid. Imagine how kids would mature in a post-apocalyptic situation. And she does.
Yeah.
Right? She does mature really fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful. Chris says, I'd imagine that it would be different for a man or a woman. It's pretty easy for a man to have more kids. Interesting point.
I don't think, Chris, you speak like someone who doesn't have kids then, because it's not about having more. It's about loving the ones you have.
Exactly. I don't know.
I mean, it's like you hear some horrible story about a child dying and that was their only child, which is sad. But why is that more sad than someone that has 6 kids and loses one? It's still a person that you loved, a person that had a personality and feelings and likes and dislikes. So it doesn't matter whether you have 20 kids or 1 kid. You know,
think about how hard it is for people to put their pet down, right? I mean, that they didn't even come from, your body. It's, you don't even share blood, but God, it's so hard to look into the eyes of somebody you love and let them go, even if it might be better for them, if they're in pain or whatever. Lewis makes a good point. There's no guarantees it would actually work. How many failed experiments have we seen? This is Ellie, not a rabbit. I agree.
And then John says video games are not based on real life. They are imaginary product of entertainment.
I mean, okay, party pooper. We're just talking about it.
This concept was based on a real thing. This fungus is a real thing. And again, it has taken over bugs and it controls their brains and does whatever. So it is based on reality. And I don't think it's too far-fetched. Well, okay, maybe it's far-fetched, but it's an interesting conversation as a what if. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we are talking about, like Kim mentioned, something that's real. Is it going to turn us into zombies? That's a little far-fetched, but could it kill tons of people? Look at COVID. Look how many people, human beings, we lost around the world. Not that far-fetched. Laura, you're freaking me out, man. Fungal spores are in space. It's amazing and creepy how long and where fungi spores can live. I used to work with fungi in biotech. You cannot get rid of those spores. They regrow after years.
Lori, no. Really?
Nope. Who wants to clean their house today? I don't know, man. But again, the ethics of it all, I'm siding with Joel, I'm siding with Lewis. There's no guarantee I'm going to give up my kid for your little experiment over there. And then somebody drops something or somebody makes some sort of mistake. And now we don't have a antidote and I've lost my child. No, thank you. No, thank you whatsoever. That's a fun conversation. I mean, it's a scary conversation, but we have grown yeast from ancient yeast dug up in Egypt. And maybe that's where all of our problems begin. We need to stop unearthing things and letting them grow, right? Like, could we stop doing that? There's a reason why, God or whatever you believe froze it over or kept it deep underground. Maybe we should leave it where it's at. You welcome the tardigrade apocalypse.
I don't know what a tardigrade apocalypse is.
Heather, you're going to have to explain that to us unless it's something from the show. I don't remember it. But yeah, it's an interesting mental exercise to do with yourself, the one versus the many. And I think the whole idea of the many kind of suck. And I'll just keep my kid that I love. It's holding a lot of weight for me in this conversation. Botulism, the most lethal substance on earth, Dave writes, is all around us every day. It can only grow without the presence of oxygen, though. Yeah, people inject it in their face, right? You know what Botox is botulism. That's gross. Oh, wait. Sorry. Billy said what? I think the decision to kill your kid becomes easier the closer we are to the end of... the closer we are to the end of humanity. Would you... But I mean, that's like... Are you talking about like taking your kid's life with no benefit to the rest of society? Because that's the end of humanity? I don't know about that.
So
I can't take my own.
I think if you're looking at the situation and you're like, okay, we're going to die anyway. Right. Within the next 6 months, we're gone because this disease is progressing to the point where it's going to kill everyone. We know that that the end of humanity is coming within 6 months. At that point, if you know that you're going to die and everyone you love is going to die, then is it easier to sacrifice yourself for others or your child?
Well,
And
no,
say,
not if
go
everyone's
ahead,
going to die.
take
If
the
everyone's going to
cordyceps.
die anyway.
But they won't if you sacrifice.
Well, that's what they're saying, right? I mean, that's what the whole Last of Us is saying is
no, because I would argue that there are pockets of people that are not infected and they have found a way to keep themselves from getting infected. And so you can live in this weird world where there's zombie mushroom-headed people
that's what
running
I don't
around.
want.
Yeah.
You know what my biggest fear is, Kim, and I've mentioned this on Station X so much. It is mass hysteria. Mass hysteria freaks me out. Like if there's anything of just people freaking out and running and trampling over each other, that freaks me out. How soon after the end is near, how close do you get to the end before you're able to make that kind of decision though? Right? It's
I would say the end has to be pretty imminent.
There has to be like banging, breaking down the wood from my windows kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, we're out. Sorry.
The end has arrived. This is an uplifting conversation.
I know, but it's something that I think a lot of people were debating at the end of this is The Last of Us. This is The Last of Us. Tardigrade are super cool, Lori writes. They live in space and under extreme conditions. Some call micro bears or something. Google a picture. Water bears. Oh, water bears. Okay, Google that. I'll do it during Kim's news. I'll throw up a picture. Anonymous with a good question. What if you run out of food and resources? Would you watch your child starve to death or take the chance? You know, I already debated this with my husband. I told him that if there's ever a plane crash or something and people are starving for food like in The Last of Us, eat me. I have no problem with that. So if I had to sacrifice my own life for my child to eat for as long as this booty butt can provide meat, I'd do it. I have no problem whatsoever. But yeah, after a while, once the meat on my bones runs out, I don't know what would happen. I just don't know at all. Dave, I need to watch American Blackout. It's about a long-term U.S. blackout and how crazy people get after just days without power.
Really?
Great. I'm telling you, human psychology and how we feed off each other in both a positive and negative way is insane. And that's what freaks me out. That's what kind of freaks me out and did about COVID, except everyone had to stay the hell home, which was awesome. But I would hate for something like a zombie or people running for their lives. Oh, no, thank you. Not to mention I'm a bit claustrophobic, so I don't like a bunch of people around.
What about the days when we had no electricity? You know, what? I mean, couldn't
we
just
go
back to that? You didn't know any different.
Better.
I mean, so pull out the candles and it's fine.
Right? That's true. All right. Let's do some of Kim's news. I'll read some more of your comments coming up. I do want to play you Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso's address to the press at the White House where they were talking about mental health. Also, we have to get into, I wanted to get into this yesterday. We didn't have time. I want to get into this Florida bill that would ban young girls from mentioning the fact that they got their periods at school. So all the women out there, you know, that maybe got their period 9, 10 years old, sorry, girl, you're just going to have to wait until you're in 6th, 7th grade because Florida doesn't want you talking about it or getting any sort of guidance from your teachers. So that's a bit insane. We'll touch on the Dominion lawsuit. We're keeping our eye on, of course, Trump not apparently getting indicted today, but we'll see what happens. But that Dominion lawsuit, a Fox producer is claiming that a pair of lawsuits to blame her and Maria Bartiromo, that Fox business host, for the Dominion lawsuit, in that lawsuit, is sexist and misogynistic. And I'll give you their arguments. And you guys tell me if you agree, because on one hand, we know how Fox News is with women, right? I'm not trying to defend them. On the other hand, it kind of pisses me off that they're trying to include this situation under the sexist, misogynistic banner of the work environment at Fox News, because there were conscious decisions that were made and maybe she just wasn't doing her job. We have some wedding news, which depending on what you think. It's kind of gross or it's kind of cool. I don't know. We have some booze news, and then we're going to get into that Mean Girl story. You know, how long should you have to share the wealth with something? If you create something, should you always get a piece of the pie? And we'll talk about Mean Girls and Tina Fey and what she's doing and what she's not doing. So that's coming up in the second part of the show. Please click that thumbs up button. And here's Kim with some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report could be sponsored by you. We are looking for news sponsors, so we would love to have you along for the ride. You can email us at thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com if you are interested in sponsoring a newscast like this one, or maybe part of the show. And let's get on with the news, because it is a rainy, rainy day around the Bay Area. That's a picture of an atmospheric river, not the one we're currently facing. But I'll tell you, rain has been pounding the Bay Area this morning. It's going to hit the Southern California area hard too. And the bigger problem than the rain almost, high winds. High wind warnings are in place. Strongest winds due to hit between 1 and 7 p.m. The roads will be slick. It looks like the winds gusts topping 50 miles an hour today. Powerful enough to bring down more trees and power lines. So speaking of power outages, the great blackout, we could see more power outages again. And that is likely because the ground is already so saturated that trees and power lines could fall. There's some expected delays on 580 in Livermore because look what happened. Oh, no, the road's cracking apart. Oopsies, you could say. So yeah, this is 580.
So what is that? Is that
the roadway cracking down the hill?
So that's what they drive on. That's not like the wall. That's what it kind of looks like, but it's the actual road.
So it looks to me like the shoulder and the guardrail on the shoulder and maybe part of lane 4.
Jeez, Louis. You know, where the hell are our tax dollars going from all these toll lanes and all kinds of BS when you have stuff like this happening? I know it was a lot of rain, but Lord almighty.
Yeah, it's a bad one. 2 lanes on the eastbound side closed near North Flynn Road on East 580 because a mudslide caused a section of the curb to collapse, leaving a big old crack in the roadway. So Caltrans shut it down for emergency repairs. They were hoping to reopen it in time for last night's rush hour. The new storm, though, hampering efforts. There's a chance the work could be done later today. I don't know. I don't know. I know this is a story I've been following ever since it happened. These people are in court facing charges because of, they're convicted of kidnapping a baby boy in San Jose, and they are now starting their sentence. Do you remember this story, Nikki, where this woman was unloading groceries from her car?
The stroller was taken or something like that, right?
And it was the grandmother was there. Apparently this is someone the grandmother had mentioned the baby to, but friends from church, something like that. Prosecutors say Yesenia Ramirez was the mastermind and ordered her boyfriend to take this 3-month-old baby from an apartment last year while she distracted the grandmother. She accepted responsibility in court yesterday and then asked for forgiveness. Ramirez was given 13 years in prison. Her boyfriend pleaded no contest. He received 5 years in prison. So 13 years and 5 years. The baby, by the way, was found back with the family now. Everything's fine. California is taking on the opioid crisis in a whole new way. And I have a question for you, Nikki, after I read the story. But Governor Gavin Newsom says his master plan to save lives includes the state making its own Narcan, just like we're planning to make our own insulin. Now making California Narcan. The medication has been widely distributed to schools as a way to reverse a drug overdose. Governor Newsom will also rely on the National Guard more. He says a comprehensive approach that will also crack down on criminal organizations trafficking what he calls poison into our communities will be the way to deal with this opioid crisis. And here's the question I have for you. I got a message yesterday that there is a class that you can sign your child up for to learn how to administer Narcan. And the class comes with a free box of Narcan. So your child then would go to high school next year or 8th grade or whatever and take this Narcan in their backpack. And I guess the question that I have is, Narcan is an amazing drug and it always works, but what if it doesn't at that particular time? So then
Right.
you have, your 13, 14-year-old kid trying to administer this Narcan to someone who doesn't survive. Is that something then they have to live with? Is it kind of a bad psychological place to have to put these kids into?
Well, I mean, the first thing that popped into my mind, and I know it's not the exact same thing, is CPR. It's worth a shot. You can try your best. And I don't think that anyone would fault you for trying to save
Yeah.
somebody's life. And if you use the tools that you had available, then yeah, I would say, I would just say this is a really sad state of affairs. I mean,
that our kids have to carry Narcan to school. Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, I'm happy that the option is there. On the other hand, like, can we just do something about this crisis that these kids are? I know it's not just high school kids. I know it's just, national and global with the fentanyl and opioids, but geez, Louise, it's awful.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, a new app powered by OpenAI's latest technology will automatically take patient notes during a visit to the doctor. Microsoft and its Nuance Communication subsidiary announced Dragon Ambient Experience, or DAX Express. The technology is powered by a combination of ambient AI, which forms insights from unstructured data like conversations, and OpenAI's newest chatbot model, GPT-4. Do you want AI listening in on your doctor's appointment?
I will say this. If it allows my doctor to focus more on me than taking notes, I'd be okay with it. Isn't that what they always say about doctors? It's like you only get a certain amount of minutes with the doctor, right? And
Right.
so if it helps, and I mean, really, is it like a dictaphone? Is it just like, a voice texting type of thing? What is it really doing when it's listening to you and taking notes? What?
I think it's getting up in my business, and I don't necessarily know if I want it there.
Okay. Kim doesn't like AI listening in on her doctor's
No.
appointments.
I mean, I feel my
Commentary
phone
about
is
it?
already listening in on my life. I don't need your open AI listening in there as well.
All right.
First Republic Bank leading a rally of regional banks on Monday. JP Morgan Chase began advising the San Francisco bank on alternatives for its large amount of uninsured deposits. Investors are also responding to the Treasury Department studying whether to insure larger deposits than the current FDIC cap of $250,000. So the federal government could say, you know what, $250K is not enough. Let's bump it up to 500,000, a million, more. I don't know. For many men, and Nikki, you have mentioned this in the past, but here's the official story. For many men watching the NCAA tournament, it is prime time for
Sip. Yes, there you go.
vasectomies. Urologist Alexander Rosansky with the University of Texas Health System says the end of the calendar year is the most popular time for vasectomies, followed by March Madness.
There you go.
Dr. Rosansky says that's because a lot of men can do or schedule time off recommended when they undergo that surgery. He says sitting on the couch watching college hoops is a good way to recover because it reduces the risk of bleeding and wound opening.
There you go. Sit on your ass, boys. There you go.
Yeah, and this report could be sponsored by you. Again, if you would like to, you can email us at theNikkiMedoroShow.com. And of course, this show is crowdfunded. We love your support and we are so appreciative of it as well. Patreon and PayPal links to be found at theNikkiMedoroShow.com. And you can also hit us up on YouTube here like you've been doing. So we appreciate all the help and we appreciate you just for being here and being part of the show as well. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
And a big thanks
Jazz
to
hands.
Pamela. Jazz hands. Pamela starting us off with a $10 super sticker. Thank you so much. Again, Kim is absolutely right. We are 100% crowdfunded. And so, if you like seeing us every single day and you like the show as it is, then please consider donating, sponsoring, being a monthly Patreon subscriber. All of it helps us out so much. So thank you so much for everybody that does that. Okay, so I was seeing the comments that you guys were making regarding Kim's story about Narcan. It's a bit depressing. It's depressing when I'd be depressed if I had to send my kid to a school that had metal detectors. I'm depressed that my kids go to school and have lockdown drills, active shooter drills. It used to be earthquakes and fires, and now they do these. And my kids tell me every time they have one. And every time they tell me, I go, how did it go? And then I say, I'm sorry. I do. I say every time, I'm like, I'm so sorry. We have not been able to get it together enough to figure out how to keep you safe, or you don't have to worry about it.
I will say what I said yesterday, and I think it's my new mantra. Every time we talk about this is not normal.
Okay. Yeah, this is not
Let's not forget. It's not normal. We talk about it like it is. It isn't. It's not normal.
Did you see this Today Show interview? Where is she? Hold on. I have a picture of her. And I just can't. So this is her. So this is Abigail Zwerner, and she was on the Today Show. She was the teacher that was shot by that 6-year-old at school
in Virginia.
I believe. Yeah, it was in Virginia. And so she was on the Today Show, and she was talking about, and this is the thing. It's just I want to play you the sound, because in her voice, she knew something was going to happen. And that's what's so frightening. Here again is Abigail Zwerner.
I remember a lot. The morning, it felt like just a regular school day, but I started hearing things, and things started happening that made my fear grow. As the day went on, it grew more. My fear grew more. I remember him pointing the gun at me. I remember the look on his face. I remember the gun going off. I remember feeling something. It was a pretty scary day. In that moment, my initial reaction was, your kids need to get out of here. This is not a safe classroom anymore, and then you need to go find help for yourself. But I just wanted to get my babies out of there.
What did the kids say?
They were screaming. I think they knew as well that they had to get out of there, but they were extremely frightened and screaming. In that moment,
yeah, she just wanted to get her babies out of there. Those are teachers for you, people. When teacher pay comes up, you saw the bandage on her hand. They're saying that her putting up her hand before the bullet went into her chest is what saved her, because it took most of the impact. 6-year-old sitting there. Can you imagine? You're in a classroom, you look across. This quote she's like, where is it? Hold on. She's like, I looked across and fixed my eyes on the 6-year-old boy sitting several feet away. His tiny fingers were wrapped around the trigger of a 9mm handgun. Now, this kid has had issues with her before. The day before, apparently, had broken her cell phone. But again, it's one of those situations. We talked about this yesterday, right? What's actually being done to help these kids? The gun was apparently purchased legally by the parents. The mom has no idea how the child got it. Of course, they never know. I have no idea how the gun got there. I don't know how the child got a hold of ammunition. Obviously, it was not put away properly. Obviously, you keep your ammunition way too close to weapons. That's the only answer. It's not like he walked down the street and panhandled for a couple of bullets to shoot his teacher. He got it where he got the gun, which was in your house.
Which, because it was unsecured. If it was in a safe with a combination that he didn't know, he wouldn't have been able to get that gun. How does a 6-year-old get a gun?
How does a 6-year-old get a gun?
Question. Why is a 6-year-old so angry?
Exactly. Well, now, according to NBC, the child does have developmental or mental issues. So there is some sort of history there. But still, if you knew your child had some sort of issue, either mentally or emotionally, I would not keep a gun in my home. The boy had behavioral issues, a pattern of troubling interactions with school staff members and students. At that point, that's why I like the idea, even though I know people don't, I like the idea of schools knowing if a child has a gun in the home. When you go to the doctor, they ask you, and you could lie, I guess. I mean, you can say, no, right? But why? Why are you lying? Why wouldn't you want the school to know that if this kid keeps displaying behavioral issues, emotional issues, I want to know if that kid has access to a gun. You should want to know if you have a gun in your home, that your kid has emotional issues, to make you rethink whether or not you should have that weapon in your house.
This child had no business being in a mainstream classroom. Threatening.
Suspended for one day. One day.
Awful behavior. This is not the first threat. This is not the first lashing out against an authority figure or a teacher. Yeah. This child should have been in a classroom for behavioral issues, kids, and they all knew it. And they didn't do it because they didn't want the state to have to pay for that, I guess. Something.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have that. I mean, imagine that's first grade. What a sweet environment that should have been. I mean, think about what all his classmates have had to deal with the whole time.
Exactly. No. I mean, 6 years old, holding a gun, looking at your teacher. And not only that, but then, so this teacher is suing because apparently, remember how she was saying, my fear started growing throughout the day. They knew.
Yeah.
They knew that this kid, there was rumors this kid had a gun. How are you not pulling that kid, searching that bag, figuring it out? Hell yeah, I would sue that school and the administration.
I think the principal's gone. The administration removed. Yeah, because they didn't take it seriously. And they didn't take his previous threats seriously either.
You know, John writes in, I don't believe the child had mental issues at all. I grew up with mental issues and I never brought a weapon onto campus. Blanket statements don't work here, right? I mean, obviously the kid had mental issues and brought a gun to school. He had an acute disability. He had anger issues. He was angry at this specific teacher. He had broken her phone the day before. You can't, I know many people that have mental health issues and they live a normal, happy life. They're on either medication, they go to therapy. I'm not saying that everyone that has mental issues would shoot up their teacher. What I'm saying is this kid had some sort of acute disability and obviously anger towards this teacher and access to a gun.
Well, and I think there are varying degrees of mental illness, and there's different types of mental illness, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so, absolutely, if this kid has, what is it, ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, or major anger issues, or is psychotic, whatever it is, I feel like, there's different things that could be happening. And just because you grew up with mental issues and you didn't bring a gun to school, or you were fine and weren't, this type of violent, doesn't mean there's not other types of issues that could affect someone. So,
yeah, I mean, it's just, and obviously, if you hear rumors that a student may have a gun, there needs to be immediate action. Delaying it is just asking for trouble, in my opinion. But again, like Kim keeps mentioning, this is not normal. A 6-year-old shooting their teacher point blank in the chest, not normal. Not normal at all. And I do want to play this, and I know that, it's kind of lighter, but I do think that shows that destigmatize getting mental health help is important. I'm going to play you a little bit of it just because I enjoy the show. I know you don't watch Ted Lasso, Kim. You really would enjoy it. You really would. There is no gruesomeness. There is no bloodshed. There's nothing like that. It really is a feel-good show. But that last season dealt with mental health. And so Jason Sudeikis and the entire cast was welcomed to the White House yesterday to talk about mental health. And they decided to do a press conference. So there they are. Here we go.
For bigger reasons than us. But I just want to say that on behalf of myself, everyone here with me today, and the numerous other folks that it takes to make our show, Ted Lasso, it is sincerely an honor to visit the White House and to have the opportunity to speak to the president and to the first lady about the importance of mental health. So no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter who you voted for, we all probably, I assume, we all know someone who has, or have been that someone ourselves actually, that's struggled, that's felt isolated, that's felt anxious, that has felt alone, right? And it's actually one of the many things that believe it or not, that we all have in common as human beings, right? And so that means that it's something that we can all, and should talk about with one another when we're feeling that way, or when we recognize that in someone feeling that way. So please, we encourage everyone, and this big theme of the show is to check in with your neighbor, your coworker, your friends, your family, and ask how they're doing, and listen. sincerely. You know, I mean, you all ask questions for a living, but you also listen for a living. So, you know, who am I preaching to? The choir, that is. Okay. And look, and while it's easier said than done, we also have to know that we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help ourselves. And that does take a lot, especially when it's something that has such a negative stigma to it, such as mental health. And it doesn't need to be that way. And if you can ask for that help from a professional, fantastic. If it needs to be a loved one, equally as good in a lot of ways, because sometimes you just need to let that pressure valve release. The president's working on, and his own team, although his team is real, our team is make-believe. And don't think I don't know that, despite what the people at FIFA and EA will tell you. We are actually a make-believe team, but you know, they're working very hard to make sure that that option is available to as many Americans as possible. Now, look,
so that's good. I mean, and some people are saying, why actors? And I see it in there, and valid point. Okay. And I'm sure that obviously they're working with mental health professionals. It's not like President Biden is giving Jason Sudeikis control over an entire policy. But what I think it does do is when you bring in big names like Jason Sudeikis, like the cast of Ted Lasso, which is a very, very popular show, even though Kim won't watch it or hasn't watched it.
Only because I won't pay for Apple TV.
You won't pay for Apple TV. I think that it does something for people to be like, okay, doesn't it kind of boggle your mind though, that I feel like our kids' generation has no problem talking about these things, and yet they are also the ones that seem to be having a lot of the issues, right? And maybe that may be because it goes hand in hand. I don't know. I worry about our kids. I worry that we're failing them as a society. I worry that we're not setting them up to be as resilient as we hope they are in the face of all of our failures to protect them. Does that make sense? Yep. It's like we could do more to help them, to protect them, to set them up for success. And I worry that when they're our age, I worry what the world's going to look like. I really do. And maybe I know we kind of have a Debbie Downer type of theme going on today, but I do worry about them. I am, on one hand, I think that they're more accepting. I think that they really like to speak truth to power and those sorts of things. On the other hand, the society, all of the things we mess up has an impact. It has to have an impact. Going to school and shootings and murders and fights and all sorts of things as a real reality, like not a bat eye kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, that happened. I'm just waiting for it to happen at my school mentality is messed up.
Really
it's
messed
got to
up.
be doing something to our kids. It just does. It sucks. It really, really sucks. I don't know how we're gonna fix it, but
I said something speaking of all the things our kids have had to go through. I said something to Julia yesterday about she could do something on Zoom. She said, "Oh, it's too far away. I can't do it." I said, "Well, you could Zoom it." Right. And she looked at me and she goes, "Are you kidding me? I am not going back to the COVID lockdown. I am not going back to Zoom."
Yeah.
I don't think of Zoom as that bad. I think
it's because we do this every day and you're used to.
Yeah, but I mean, even back then, I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't mind it. But kids need to be together, I think. And for them, it took a big emotional toll. I don't understand the psychology behind it, but I just know that kids did not get what they needed during that whole time.
I think, I think every kid is different. Every family is different. I think what you were able to do, with your kids, some people went on road trips, right? Outdoors, right. Got an RV, were able to do that. Some people really do like the whole Zoom aspect. Introverted, possibly, people that just kind of like the ability to be together, but not physically together. I think there are some people, maybe a significant number of people that thrive in this sort of interaction.
Right.
But I think for kids, I think there just also wasn't enough watching over happening for a lot of kids. I think, they're on Zoom when they weren't on Zoom. They were going down internet rabbit holes and in these kind of groups. I think we as a society, and obviously it's different based on the household, but I think that sometimes it was just overwhelming for everybody at the same time that many kids fell through the cracks and we don't know how to get them out of it. I think people are overworked. I think adults are overworked, that we only have so many eyes and hands and time that the thing that is falling through the cracks are the things that are most important to us. And that's terrible and it's awful, and we have to get it together. And I don't know how we do. I feel like we get distracted by things that don't matter, and then all of a sudden it takes a gunshot to the chest of a teacher for people to be like, oh yeah, that kid has problems. It's like that kid was showing you that they had problems for a long time and nobody was noticing. So it can't be just a fluke that happened. People were missing all of the signs. And I think that as a society, we're missing a lot of the signs that are all around us. Yep. School shootings are not normal. Kids doing this is not normal. The fights, the everything that are happening, it's not normal. And we need to do something about it. We really, really do. Okay, I think we can squeeze this in. Florida. I just, I don't want to go from, we got to, take care of each other and all that to like really bashing on Florida, but I don't understand this bill. Okay. Every kid, when you start going to junior high, right? You have the sex ed. I think in my kids' school, and I don't know about you, Kim, it started in 5th grade. Okay. 5th grade, end of elementary school, you start sex ed. Although, obviously you learn about the body way earlier. We were doing our big move and we still have, I don't know if you guys did it in your school, the entire paper cutout of the body that the kids do. They lay down on paper.
Oh, yeah.
And then you put the kidneys in the heart and you learn about the body, right? Okay.
Right.
We still have both of our kids folded up in a box somewhere just because it's really cute to look at. And so anyways, there's a new bill in Florida. It's House Bill 1069, and it would ban young girls from discussing menstruation, their periods, with school officials. Okay. I'm going to play you this sound or this interaction, this questioning about this bill. And you guys tell me in the comments how you interpret it. Okay. I'm going to leave it open. How do you interpret this bill?
Does this bill prohibit conversations about menstrual cycles? Because we know that typically the ages is between 10 and 15. So if little girls experience their menstrual cycle in 5th grade or 4th grade, will that prohibit conversations from them since they are in a grade lower than 6th grade?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It would.
Okay.
Really? Then why are you doing it?
It would, because they don't want anyone below 6th grade to talk about it. So I have the bill. I pulled out some things. This is what the bill says. Some of the things I pulled out of the bill. It needs to teach abstinence from sexual activity outside of marriage as the expected standard for all school-aged students. How do you feel about abstinence being the standard that you teach?
I feel like it's not realistic. I feel like we in 5th and 6th grade, sure, we should strive for that. And then we should say, if you don't have sex, right, then you won't get pregnant and you won't get STDs likely.
Exactly. Like if you want to prevent pregnancies and those things, you should maybe delay having sex.
But here's where we talk about, and I would also say, if you're not ready to get pregnant, then you're not ready to have sex. Right. And then I would say, but there are such things as hormones and passion. And let's talk about that.
Oh, can you imagine Kim McAllister in a classroom? Let's talk about passion, children.
Let's talk about passion. Let's talk about what happens in the heat of the moment. Let's talk about, after what happens after your first dance or whatever it may be. Let's talk about things you don't intend that get out of hand.
Oh, well, great.
I would say 6th.
Okay, but we're talking about below 6.
But I wouldn't shy away from talking about menstrual cycles and the way the human body functions, because what we're talking about there is different than the sex talk. We're just talking about the way the body works and functions. And so if you start bleeding out of orifices in your body, don't worry, you're not going to die, honey. This is part of the way the body works, right?
Well, it also would stop a student from going to their teacher and being like, what's going on? The teacher, according to this bill, would be like, sorry, I'll let you know next year, as you're sitting there soiled.
Asinine.
Here's go ahead.
I had my daughter and my son went to a school, And I was talking to the principal one day, and we were talking about sex ed because we had a PTA meeting. Before the meeting, we used to have try to schedule things that made parents interested enough to come to the meetings.
Right.
And one of them was how to talk to your kids about sex.
Right.
And in that meeting, she was talking about how interesting it is because in the olden days, she said, you would have kindergartners that maybe wet their pants or whatever. So you'd always have to have an extra pair of underwear, clothes,
Exactly.
and you had a second set of clothes in the office for kids. Now she goes, it's interesting because now I have to have new underwear and fresh clothes for kids that, soil themselves in one way. And I also have to keep underwear in bigger sizes and, women's products for girls in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade that get their period at school and don't know what it's about and they're not prepared and whatever else. So it's interesting that even at your local school, and this one right down the street from my house, local schools are dealing with this and they're taking away, what needs to happen. And what happens to a teacher that says, it's normal. You got your period. It's normal. This is how your body works. Let me explain it to you and take you to the office for a fresh pair of underwear and all the things that you need.
Are they going to be called out?
Does that teacher get fired?
I would hope that, that intelligence, right, and common sense would take over. And if you have the literal child in front of you that has gotten their period in a grade younger than 6th, that you would just handle that on a case-by-case basis. But it's just this very narrow definition. They also want to teach the benefits of a monogamous heterosexual marriage. So I guess if you're a child and you have 2 moms or 2 dads, you just don't say anything in those classrooms. These are the things like these bills ignore reality, in my opinion.
They're not rooted in reality.
And what happens to the children that are in the classroom that don't fit within this kind of narrow definition? Heterosexual marriage. Their parents aren't in a heterosexual relationship. What do you do? What do you do with kids that get their periods before 6th grade? What do you do? And why are you making it so narrow? I don't get Florida. I know many of you are like, it's Florida. But these are kids. Again, going back to what we were talking about before, we're messing them up. Yeah. We're messing them up because we think we're fixing or protecting them from something. Look, when the internet started existing, throw everything out the window as far as what kids are exposed to. They're exposed to everything that they can be unless you set restrictions, right? So stop acting like, if they don't mention it at school, they'll never. No, they're going to get either the wrong information, graphic, explicit information. That's what's going to happen. Yeah, Lori says, I think you say it's normal and your parent will explain and call home. You assuage their fear and pass it off to the parent. Okay. I mean, that's what, and I'm not knocking that. I mean, that probably will happen, right? Yeah. It's like, but how are they going to feel if they go to school the next day and all the kids are asked, like, these things happen.
And not every parent has the mental wherewithal to explain it. As Karen says, she says, if I hadn't learned about menstruation in sex ed, I never would have heard about it at home. And so, what would she have done then? The teacher says, okay, this is normal. And your parents will explain it to you later. And they don't.
Oh God. And just like how awful. It's just awful. Well, so anyways, we'll see. I mean, again, it's a bill. It just goes to show that I just feel someone said, like we need to be focused on other things, right? Karen says that there's parents that feel shame from talking to their children about this kind of stuff. Kids find out on their own through friends, the internet. It's better to have it in a school. Exactly. In an informed environment. And another Karen says, why don't these legislators spend time on something really important and relevant? Exactly. This is not necessary.
I really hate this word. I hate this word, Chris, because it's just
indoctrination.
Doesn't happen.
What are you indoctrinating people into? Periods? It already happened, dude. It's part of their body.
What is indoctrination into what? I've heard this word when people say, "Oh, there's the gay agenda." If you talk about being gay in school, you're teaching people that it's okay to be gay and there's a gay agenda, and you're convincing kids to go have the gay lifestyle. Either you're gay or you're not gay, and you're going to figure it out eventually. There's no indoctrination. That is a giant load of crap.
What indoctrination are you talking about? Seriously, I'm asking. You could put it in the comments and we can go back to it. What indoctrination? What are we indoctrinating kids into? What exactly? It can't be periods because that's been around since women have been around. So, I mean, it's not that. Heterosexual, homosexual relationships exist. There is no question. There is no indoctrination going on. There is no agenda. It is the world around us. School teaches children about the world that they live in. Period. Both periods. Period. Like, that's it. To say, I don't want to talk about it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's an asinine way of thinking about it. You're not indoctrinating people. Yeah, Kim writes in, they started teaching us about this stuff in 4th grade, and that was in the dark ages. I just don't understand how we keep going backward. Again, this is not normal. No, it's not. And honestly, I get it. It's a fear. I don't know what people are so afraid of about with periods and teaching people about different types of relationships and gender fluidity and all these things that are foreign to you. Learn, educate yourself. Don't hide. Doesn't go away. It's not going away. Anonymous, it's like people saying drag shows indoctrinate kids. Shakespeare had men playing women. 1600 Japan had kabuki theater with men playing female characters. It's nothing new. Exactly. Chris says schools teach obedience to state authorities.
So,
what are you talking about? What?
Chris, I think we might have found some common ground, which is hard for us, but I think we found it. Because we know that one of the points of having kids go to school is to teach them the rules, is to teach them the Pledge of Allegiance, is to teach them nationalism, right? You teach that at a young age. You teach them they're Americans. You teach them what being an American is. You push all these stories on kids that may or may not be true, as far as, sweeping slavery under the rug and talking about founding fathers, but leaving out all the other stuff about slavery and everything else, because we want you to, be proud of your heritage and your Americanism. I get that. And so, yes, do schools have an alternative motive that rather than just teaching reading, writing, and math? Yes. Yes, I think they do. But that doesn't mean kids are being indoctrinated into being gay or trans or having sex at an early age. All those things, I think those are Republican conservative talking points that are alarmist and make zero sense.
Yeah. I mean, schools need to teach, and that's again why teachers are totally underpaid. Schools teach so many different things, and just like Karen said, because parents aren't doing it all at home. Either they don't have time, they don't have the education, they don't have the guts, they don't have the words. All sorts of reasons why kids need education. If not, we would all be freaking homeschooled and it would be, apparently glorious to some people. But no, you need to learn about these things. School is where kids spend so much of their lives. To ignore certain things is ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to hate on Florida like the Taliban. It seems like for a state that prides itself on freedom, anti-woke, they really seem to want to limit a lot of other things that are fundamental to being a human freaking being in the United States of America. John, would you take your younger child to a drag show? Why?
Yes.
Why wouldn't I? What's the big deal? Also, comparing drag shows to Shakespeare plays is totally different. Why? What is drag to you? What is drag to you?
Dressing up as women in order to entertain you. Why? How is that different than a Shakespearean play?
There was a old RuPaul, RuPaul, clip. Oh, what show was it? Sally Jesse Raphael. I forget what show it was back in the day, right?
Oh gosh, I remember her.
RuPaul,
Wow.
RuPaul was just coming up, and he goes by he, right? I mean, he just dresses in
when
drag.
He's not in drag, right?
Yeah,
I think, or they. I don't know.
Whichever. RuPaul said, everybody is in drag. You are born naked. Everything else is drag.
Yeah.
Think about that. Society tells you what to wear. You decide to go with it or you decide to go a different way. You are born naked. Everything else is a costume.
Yep.
And it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
We decided as a society what this person wears, what that person wears, what's professional, what's not professional, what's okay for the beach, but not okay for the mall. Right? Everything is drag, John. We're born naked. And I just loved that. I really loved that way of looking at it.
I was looking at this for this meme I had saved, and it said something about compared what's scarier, a drag queen or a school shooting? Like what are, when you're talking about what we're putting our kids through, lockdown drills, all the things that are scary, drag queens are not scary. They're entertaining and they're funny and they're delightful.
And most people that complain about it probably have not even been to one, right? No. I mean, when's the last time, John, you went to a drag show?
Right. Never. Because you're scared of it.
It's, Karen says, drag's entertainment. Why are people making such a big freaking deal about it? Yeah. Everyone loved Mrs. Doubtfire, right? Oh, yeah. Tootsie. I mean, everyone laughed about it back in the day, right? It was funny. Yeah. It was, just go to a drag show and then educate yourself on it. It's not doing things to our children. It's ridiculous. All right, let's do some news and headlines with Kim. When we come back, I'm going to get into the Fox News producer claim. And you guys tell me if it's sexist or misogynistic to hold this producer and Maria Bartiromo accountable in this lawsuit, or if it's just something else. Also, Rupert Murdoch is getting married for the 5th time, and there's a local connection if you don't know. And we have that plus the Mean Girls debate over successful women. Hopefully we'll have time for that. But first, let's take a look at some headlines with Kim.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report could be sponsored by you. So email us at thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show, and they have heavy security in place in New York because of a possibility of protest, let's say, and the anticipation of the potential arrest of former President Trump. Major media outlets are gathered outside Trump Tower and criminal court in Lower Manhattan, awaiting a grand jury decision on hush money payments made to adult actress Stormy Daniels. For her part, Daniels boasted on Twitter that she will dance down the street when former President Trump goes to jail. I bet she will, too. I bet that news clip of her dancing will be on the 6 o'clock news on every single channel. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is downplaying the legal case related to this hush money payment by former President Trump. While speaking from the House Republican retreat in Orlando today, McCarthy said the Manhattan District Attorney's case is just political. He argued the payment involved in personal money shouldn't be able to be prosecuted under the statute of limitations. And another thing going on with the House, Republicans are demanding the State Department turn over documents related to the withdrawal from Afghanistan. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCall set the deadline of Wednesday night for the agency to comply. The demand comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to appear before that very committee on Thursday to discuss President Biden's budget proposal. A federal judge says that a decades-old law here in California is unconstitutional. The law requires newly sold handguns to include equipment that lets the owner know if the gun is loaded and allows police to trace cartridges from crime scenes. Doesn't seem so bad, but the judge said these regulations are having a devastating impact on Californians' ability to buy and use new state-of-the-art handguns. State Attorney General Rob Bonta is defending the law in court. He said the judge agreed to delay the injunction for 14 days to give the state time to appeal and to request a further stay from a federal appeals court. Here we talk about guns and all the problems with guns. And we don't want a law that would require newly sold handguns to include equipment that lets the owner know if that gun is loaded. Okay, whatever you want, America. What do they say? America gets the America it deserves, right? A massive school strike is beginning today in Los Angeles, Southern California, the nation's biggest district, second biggest district. I say most biggest? No. The nation's second biggest district is shutting down for 3 days, affecting about 500,000 students. Teachers across Los Angeles are walking out to support cafeteria workers, bus drivers, custodians, and other staff members that are fighting for new labor contracts. And TikTok, they are rolling out updated rules and standards as a leader set to testify before Congress. The company says its updated guidelines will focus on improving content moderation on that platform, including content altered by AI technology. That includes restricting mature content to viewers under the age of 18. And this report, again, could be sponsored by you. So it is an email address to remember, which is thenikki.medoro@gmail.com if you would like to sponsor any part of this show. Also, the show is crowdfunded. Help support us by clicking the heart button, I believe, with the $ in it here on YouTube, or go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. You can see it on your screen right there. That's where you'll find us on Patreon. Our PayPal website is up there as well. So we're happy to have any support that you would like to give. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show, and we thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Kim McAllister. All right, so Donald Trump, as far as I keep checking the interwebs, has not been indicted yet. Everyone he's the one that started this freaking rumor on his Truth Social. Yeah. He was like, it's likely I'll be indicted or arrested on Tuesday, and it didn't happen. It has not happened yet, at least. Like Kim mentioned in her news, Stormy Daniels will dance down the street along with, I think, a lot of people. It'll be like a conga line. The guy's actually going to be held accountable for something. But anyways, there's a whole nother lawsuit happening. And that has to do with Fox News and Dominion voting systems. You will remember that Fox News was at the forefront of spreading the lie that Dominion was, committing voter fraud, changing ballots, blah, blah, blah. Biden didn't really win because of the fraud with Dominion voting systems. Well, they're being sued, rightfully so. And a number of Fox News hosts and producers are linked to that lawsuit. Well, there is one producer who works with Maria Bartiromo, Abby Grossberg. And she's the producer of Bartiromo's show. And she is claiming that she should not be tied to this lawsuit. And being tied to the lawsuit, along with Maria Bartiromo, is sexist and misogynistic. According to the New York Times, the network's disregard for women is what Ms. Grossberg alleges. And it left her and Bartiromo understaffed. Now, this is the part that gets me. They're saying because Fox News has no regard for women, is sexist and misogynistic, which I'm not arguing that they're not, given everything that happened, right? They say that they were stretched too thin to properly vet the truthfulness of claims made against Dominion on air. Grossberg says she was at times the only full-time employee dedicated solely to Bartiromo's Sunday morning show. She accuses lawyers for Fox News of coaching her in a coercive and intimidating manner before her September deposition in the Dominion case. And the lawyers gave her the impression that she had to avoid mentioning prominent male executives and on-air talent to protect them from any blame while putting her own reputation at risk. I don't give two craps about how stretched thin you are. If you are going to make the claims that Maria Bartiromo was clearly and forcefully making on her show, that's on you. She could have said, we haven't had time to vet these allegations. These are very serious allegations that could possibly undermine the election system of this country. Look at what is happening to our country. We want to make sure here at the Maria Bartiromo Show that we give due diligence to these claims. But that's not what happened. Bartiromo went out there like it was written in stone that God himself came down and said there was voter fraud. There was no question. There was no hemming and hawing. And so I don't know. It just doesn't sit with me right that, yes, there are many things you could say about Fox News. Many, many things you could say about the hosts there, what they knew, what they didn't know. But I don't know. It's just, it leaves a terrible taste in my mouth for Grossberg and Bartiromo to pull the Me Too, not necessarily Me Too, but a misogynistic, sexist kind of card in this case. If you didn't have the staff to properly vet something, don't freaking talk about it. How about that? Don't talk about it. You need to do your job.
As we don't, as reporters, you don't tell the story unless you know for a fact that it's true.
Right.
Even, you hear about something breaking. You want to go on the air with it. Mm-hmm. You have to tell yourself, wait,
what is it? Where am I getting this information?
What am I looking for? How many confirmations do I have? I know you want to be the first to go on with it, but let's take a beat. Mm-hmm. Because you're never going to get dinged for taking a beat, right? For taking a breath to make sure that what you're reporting is true and accurate. But I mean, we're talking about Fox News. They don't care about true and accurate anyway.
But it's true. But I guess what's kind of getting to me is, can your work environment change who you are fundamentally? If you are a show's producer, and if you are someone that wants to, I mean, this is the other question, if she even had a desire to, wants to be truthful on air, given the impact your station has on a significant portion of the population, then it falls on you. And I don't care if they're being, not that I don't care, but you could be working in a sexist, misogynistic place, but you're choosing to, right? I mean, you could leave, but I know that some people have a hard time leaving their jobs, understandably. But she says, Grossberg says, after she complained about harassment from 2 male producers on the show, she was pulled into a meeting with HR. She was told she was not performing her duties. Some text exchanges between Grossberg and Bartiromo were released as part of the lawsuit. In one instance, Ms. Bartiromo asked Grossberg if she should have pushed Trump in an interview on whether he would peacefully transition from the presidency. Grossberg replied, "To be honest, our audience doesn't want to hear about a peaceful transition." That tells me all I need to know.
That does, yeah. That's it.
You're not news. Somebody had, was it on Twitter or somebody emailed me that, or it was like a meme. They're saying, you have to, if there's no real cheese in something, you have to write it like CHEEZ, right? If there's no real meat in it, it's like chicken with an apostrophe. And Fox News should be NOOZ, because it's not real news. It's kind of fake news. Still, she decided to kind of go and feed into that narrative. And so to pull the misogynistic, sexist card, I think, is at the very least disingenuous. At the very least, trying to get yourself out of a lawsuit that you played a role in perpetuating the lie. That's it. Yeah, David writes in, Maria Bartiromo reported the Dominion story as fact with no caveats whatsoever. Exactly. Now, if it would have been like, look, we are hearing from this source, we have yet to confirm X, Y, and Z. But I think it goes back to that last quote. Your viewers, your listeners don't want to hear any of those caveats, because they're taking it like gold. Oh, yes, of course Trump won that election. Of course Biden stole it. Of course Dominion had a role in it, right? Because that's what we want to hear. It reinforces the BS that they've told themselves. So I don't know. I feel like we can do a lot to kind of break through the false narrative, but Fox News needs to take responsibility for their role. I feel like this is a bit of a cop-out, right? I just do. Let's see.
We had a bit of a dust up in the chat.
Okay, what happened?
The people coming down on trans people, and we have some drag performer. I think Amy said she's a drag performer as well. And so I just feel like, opinions are great, but let's just keep it kind and civil.
Oh, like kindness. Yeah. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So let's go ahead and keep it kind in there. And if someone's being intolerant, it's okay to call them out as long as you use your kindness to do it. No, Ricky O'Bear, that's cool. I did put 11:17 on a 5-minute timeout because I feel like it was a stirring of the pot.
Kim McAllister will send you into the naughty chair.
11:17, we like you, but don't try to antagonize people and stir up the trouble. We got to keep it nice in here. It's a great community. It's a place where people come.
Going. Yes.
They spend 2 hours of their time with us, or, more or less in the chat room. I want to keep it a place where people are happy to be making friends and sharing ideas. I don't want anyone to feel put down. So that's how we roll.
I love it. Al Anonymous says that's the bane of misinformation, talking about the Dominion and the Fox lawsuit. The initial shock value of a story lingers psychologically in people's mindsets, even if the story is retracted. Absolutely. And then Vilma, she makes an interesting point, Kim. Money can have an impact on who you are on the job.
Yeah.
How much would they have to pay you to say that the election was stolen, Kim? How much?
When I knew unequivocally it wasn't true,
or that you didn't have the facts.
I don't have the facts, but you want me to go on the air and say that?
Yes. How much? Truth.
So I count on the money to pay my mortgage and feed my kids, but I'm not going to, unless I'm a
caveat.
Not even then. I was going to say, if I was a commentator and not a news person, because on this show I'm both, right?
Right.
So when you hear my news, you might hear some opinion in there, but I'm not selling it as regular news, right? If I'm on a news station and it's my job to give you the news, I'm not reporting it for any amount of money. If I'm a commentator, I was going to say maybe I could say what if it was, but even then,
people say, oh,
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
What if they threaten to fire you if you didn't lie? I mean, is it in my contract that I have to say everything that Fox News tells me to say? That's a valid question, because it might be. Knowing Fox News, they're like, you need to toe the line or you're out.
I've had news directors come before and say, did you hear about the story? I need you to report it. And I've said, wait a minute. What you're coming to me with is not exactly accurate. And I haven't reported it because we don't have all the facts yet. So I'm on the story, give it a while. I'll let you know when I have the facts needed to report it. I've said that before.
Yeah.
But I've never been told I must say something or face termination.
Right.
I haven't had to deal with that. I would like to think that I wouldn't do it.
Me too. Cheryl, though, writes in, I've worked for intimidating, threatening employers and had to suffer the consequences for not pushing back and losing my job. But I would be able to sleep well at night. I would put that blanket over me. And yes, I might be worried about, how my next job and paying my bills, which is valid. And I'm not trying to minimize that fear. I don't think I could go to work every single day. Quick story. I had a friend that I used to work with in Sacramento who went to Fox News, and she's as liberal as they come. And she looked at me and she's like, well, I mean, it's a step up. It was going to a network. It was a network TV. Well, I think it was Fox Radio, but it was network, right? I mean, it's a huge professional jump. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. And this was, this was the early-ish 2000s. Yeah. So, but I was like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could align my name with something like that, because the stink rubs off on me. I worked at a station that used to air Rush Limbaugh, and in the news truck, I would get flipped off, even though we were the news and they were the talk. It was, oh my God, F you and Rush Limbaugh. I'm like, I don't even know the guy, man. But it was.
They used to air Dr. Laura on Sundays after the 49ers game on KGO.
I used to listen a lot when I went to Chico back in the day. I used to listen on the way home. And then there was a point where you're listening, you're like, I don't know. In my opinion, I think she jumped the shark a bit. Yeah. But this was earlier in her career.
I had a friend who's a producer and later a reporter for KGO. And his first job at the station was as a producer for the conservative station, KSFO.
Okay.
And he is an extremely liberal person and lives in San Francisco, and was saying, I did it for about maybe close to a year. Okay. And he said, but I'm helping put out this content. I don't believe in anything they're saying. He goes, it wears on your soul after a while. He goes, I had to get out of there. So I quit. He goes, and when they hired me back years later, I said, I will produce for you again, as long as I'm producing news or talk on KGO, but I will not work on that other station that you've got going there, KSFO. Yeah. So, I think, you maybe by having that experience, he realized that he really can't compromise his principles. He really is not good for the health of his mental well-being. So I think, we all get there eventually to a different point. But I know, Lori said 10 million. She'd do it for 10 mil. I just don't know if I would like to think I couldn't compromise.
Yeah.
Because that's your reputation. You look at all those emails they were sending back and forth. They knew they were lying.
They knew
they were lying, that they were cheating the American public. That's your reputation. And everybody knows that you were more for the money in yourself than you were for having integrity and telling the American people the truth, and that you lied because you didn't care about us. That should be your living legacy. And on your epitaph, I hope it says that.
Yeah. I think also we can't underestimate how much of a person's identity is wrapped up in their job, for better or for worse, right? And so because you spend so much time of your life doing it, right? If you're spending so much of your life lying or in a lie or something that goes against your moral code, soon that is who you are. You are that person. There's no oh, well, I work on this show and I know they're full of crap, but it's a paycheck. Well, no, that's you. That's also who you are. You can't separate both things from each other, especially when you're not only spending so much of your life doing it, but you're getting paid to do it, right? I mean, you're making something off of it. I love that. The My Pillow guy really believes the election was stolen, but then again, it was the inspiration for Cocaine Bear. I watched that movie. Hilarious. Really, really funny. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Let's see. Oh yeah, Jim. Last year, KGO had Jimbo late at night. Yeah, Jimbo Hannon. And it was weird to hear him attacking California on a California station. Yeah. Did you see that they have a zero? Former Station X host Gil Rose, iconic, posted that on his Facebook.
I think it's because they decided. This is what it seems like to me, and I don't have any evidence saying that this is true.
She's lying, people. She's lying. Okay.
No. This is me with a caveat saying asterisk. I have no proof of this.
Okay, what?
But I think that when there's a dash, like you have no ratings at all.
The NA, yes.
I think it means because you stopped paying the rating service and you're no longer participating. So
interesting.
It could be that the ratings were so low and they just don't care because people are paying money to be on that station, right? They're not spending any money on programming for KGO. People are paying them now to have their shows on KGO. So they don't care what the ratings are on that station. So why pay for the rating service to measure them? They no longer care.
That's a nice way of looking at it, Kim McAllister.
That would mean that the ratings aren't truly zero, that maybe they do have some listeners, but they just don't care to know who's listening because it's not going to change the way they program it. So they've just probably opted out. That may be. Again, I have no proof of that, but that's what I had read. That was a possibility.
It's just such a disappointment. I loved that station. I grew up with it. Whatever.
Me too.
I don't need to get all emotional about it. It is what it is.
No, I grew up listening to it as a kid. That was my dream job. That's where I wanted to work.
I did my college internship.
This is my dream. Absolutely.
Exactly.
We were lucky for a while.
Well, look.
And I would argue we're still lucky because we're still doing what we want to do.
I know, but it's still sad to see what they did.
It's true.
To that station. Look at this guy. Look who's getting married again for the 5th time.
Oh, Lord.
Rupert Murdoch is getting married again for the 5th time. And he's actually he's getting married to a former San Francisco police chaplain. Anne Leslie Smith is a former model, singer, songwriter, and San Francisco police chaplain. She's not, now I know what you're thinking. Oh, is this some like really young, hot model? No, she is 66. Yeah, 66.
How old is he? Like 95?
Yeah, he's 92.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna shame what he looks like, but marrying at 92,
with a 92-year-old dude. I mean, come on.
You think they're having sex though, or is it companionship? I feel like at this point it's companionship. I mean, how does he flirt? Just throw money at her? I have no idea. And I'm not saying that that's how he did. Maybe they know each other. I don't want to
cash, some Viagra, and things are looking good for Friday night. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. But yeah, I swear to God, 5th wife. I mean, 5th time's a charm. I think just at 92, you don't want to die alone, right? You just don't. I don't care how much money you have. There has to be something kind of scary about dying alone. I don't care how much money. You could surround yourself with dollar bills, $100 bills, right? Yeah. So I guess congratulations to Rupert Murdoch. There you go. He's getting married. And Leslie Smith, a former model and San Francisco police chaplain. Okay, let's. Do you have headlines? You want to do headlines? Are you ready to do headlines or no? We don't have to. We can move on. Okay.
Can we move?
Well, we can totally move on. Let's do the Mean Girls story because I find this to be very, very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to show you the picture. Here she is. This is Rosalind Wiseman and Tina Fey. So Rosalind's on the left, Tina Fey's on the right, obviously. Rosalind is the one who wrote this story, Mean Girls. Everyone knows Mean Girls, right? It's who was that? She just got pregnant. How am I brain farting on her name right now? For Mean Girls. The actress, the main actress.
Oh, Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan. Thank you. I'm totally trying to remember all these names right now. Okay, so everyone knows the movie Mean Girls. So Rosalind Wiseman wrote the script for this, along with Tina Fey. Okay,
I don't know if she wrote the script or she wrote the book that the script was based on. Tina Fey read this book and said, "I think it would be a great idea for a movie."
Queen Bees and Wannabes was the book. That's right. Wiseman wrote Queen Bees and Wannabes. Tina Fey took it over and made the Mean Girls thing based on the book. Okay, based on the book.
Right.
So apparently, Wiseman was paid $400,000 after signing a deal with Paramount, but has not received any money related to the Broadway musical. And I didn't even know there was a video game adaptation or the made-for-TV sequel on Freeform that came out in 2011. They say that they've reached out to Paramount to make things more equitable. Paramount is not interested. She's looking to not only be compensated for what she believes the franchise has made, but to be compensated in some way for her work that has changed our culture and changed the zeitgeist. What do you think about this? How long should successful, and I'm just going to talk about women here because we always talk about, building women up and supporting each other and all those sorts of things. Do you think there should be like, okay, you gave me the book, I wrote this, I helped write this movie, and that's where it ends, even though Tina Fey and others, Paramount, are still making money on what was your original idea? How long should you share the wealth? Is there a end date on this?
Well, wait a minute. You wrote the book. They came to you with this deal to make a big Hollywood movie.
Right.
You signed, and she admits that she signed over the rights to it.
Right.
Did you have a lawyer look that over? Did you know how much was coming your way? Did you sign the deal and not know what you were signing? You signed away the rights to Mean Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And you got paid what they said they would pay you. Otherwise, they would still owe you a bunch of money and you could take them to court. But the truth is, you signed the deal and that's it. Now, if you're alleging that they made all kinds of money and that they owe you royalties that were part of your deal,
and I think that's
one thing.
Not part of the deal, though, obviously, right?
Not part of the deal. Otherwise, you got paid what you got paid under the contract you signed. Go away, live your life, and be happy. And think to yourself, gosh, I'm really glad I changed the culture and made it so that Mean Girls aren't as prevalent and that people have a different idea of how to behave. That's great. That can be your reward. Otherwise, I'm sorry, but you signed the deal and that was dumb.
Yeah. And I agree. It's, if you believe in something, there should always be this, like, keep talking about caveats. There should be this line that says, and any sort of future use of this original idea, I get something from, right? So if you're going to take my thing in Mean Girls, you bought the right for Mean Girls, and then anything of an offshoot of that, I should get something. Now, I'm not saying 50%, not even maybe even a quarter of it, but X would, or Y would not exist if not for X. So everything that's attached to X, I should get paid for. And she needed a better lawyer to do that.
They should have given her a better deal. They should have. But you can't trust that someone's trying to make money is going to turn around and offer you the best and fair deal for yourself.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, if you were too naive to be able to look into the future and say, well, what if this takes off and is a great success? And what if they make a Mean Girls doll? And what if they make a Mean Girls musical?
Too, or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Then what? Right. And so if all those things happen, then you should have negotiated for yourself or had someone negotiate on your behalf. This is big Hollywood dealings. You just sign the contract and sign the rights to your book away for $400,000.
I mean, Tina Fey coming after you and wanting to make a movie out of it, obviously should have been your inkling that this could be a success. But then she also calls out Fey for being a hypocrite. Wiseman says, over the years, Tina has spoken so eloquently about women supporting other women, but it's gotten increasingly clear to me that in my own personal experience, that's not going to be the experience. You don't just talk about supporting women, you actually do it. And that seems like really cold, because I could support you and at the same time realize you don't have any rights to any of this other stuff. So that's kind of the thing that
is she saying she wants something for nothing?
I think she thinks that because you're making money off my idea, you know it's my idea, you know where it came from. You should, out of your altruistic heart, just give me royalties, even though that wasn't part of the agreement.
I would argue that Tina Fey supported women when she reached out and said, "Hey, I really love that book you wrote, and I'd love to make a movie on it."
Yeah.
That was her supporting you. You got $400,000 because she thought, this is a great idea. That's how much you wouldn't have had she not tried to support women. And now you want something for nothing because you signed your rights away. I'm sorry.
And in turn, I mean, if you want to flip it around, she's kind of trying to bring down a very successful woman who took something, made a good business deal, right? You did get paid. You made almost, $500,000 off of this book. And I would say also probably drove up sales for the actual book that people wanted to know that Mean Girls was based on, right? People like to read the books. So she probably made more money that way. Jim writes in, I agree. Royalty should have been in the contract. I had credit for being the writer, should be good for helping and selling the next script. Yeah, I think she's an author, right? I mean, write another book. Do something like that. It doesn't seem that going after Tina Fey and calling her, as not a supporter of women is a really smart business move. And it's not going to endear you to Tina to do something about it. And you think calling Tina out publicly is going to be like, good point. Here's $1 million or whatever the hell she wants. But
my bad. I'm sorry.
Exactly. My bad. I'm sorry. Here's a ton of money. No, thank you. No, thank you whatsoever.
Can I throw a woman's story at you?
Please.
Okay. So this is Nicole Mann. Nicole Mann is the first Native American woman in space.
Oh, nice.
And she is from and grew up here in Petaluma. So we're super proud of Nicole Mann. Nicole Mann, it has been learned today, is one of USA Today's Women of the Year.
Oh, nice.
Recognition is for women who have made a significant impact in their communities and across the country. So she is one of them. And what she says is, if there's one thing she could tell her younger self, it is, hang in there, kid. You're doing okay.
I love that.
She said that. To that girl, she said it's what she would say is, it's okay to take on things you might fail at, because that's how you learn to overcome adversity. And that is when the hard work paid off.
Absolutely. That's good advice. That's what I always give my kids too. It's not going to be easy. You're going to fail. But if everything comes easy, then you're not trying the right things. You have to keep challenging yourself to do other things. Well, congratulations to Nicole Mann. That's freaking awesome. That is awesome.
Pretty cool.
Let's see. We have some time. Can we do some booze news? Let's end on some lighter notes. So guess who's getting into the vodka game? Do you know this story? There's no law with the claw. White Claw is getting into the spirits business. Now, if you've told yourself that there is liquor in White Claws, you would be wrong. They are moving. They have the spiked seltzer, the White Claw. Here, let me show you a picture real quick. But now they're going to go into, and they're going to try to take on, which I don't know if it's the right thing to do. They're going to try to take on Tito's. That's what they're doing.
Okay.
They're trying to get into the vodka market. There's their bottle right there. I feel like vodka might be a little oversaturated. And I'm speaking as someone that drinks vodka.
Is it a White Claw label though? Because people will buy it just because of that, probably.
Yeah, it's going to look just like that. That's the bottle right there. I'm showing you the bottles. So those are the White Claw bottles.
It's hard to read what the label is. They look tiny, but yeah, okay.
It's going to be, let's see, White Claw, regular vodka, mango, black cherry, and pineapple. So they're going to get into the flavored vodka market.
Okay.
Do you have you don't really drink booze. Anybody? What's your favorite vodka? It is White Claw, the spiked seltzer. It's like a malt liquor. Absolutely. Grady apparently does not like White Claw. John's lived under a rock and never heard of White Claw.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a pop culture reference at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I
think it is. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying you have to have drunk it or drink it. But most people know of White Claw.
Right.
Getting into the booze business, that is I thought when I first saw the headline that they were going to try to get into like the wine from spiked seltzer to wine. But no, they're going to try to get into the vodka, which
there have been some celebrities that have done that and have had some serious success.
Well, Ryan Reynolds got into the gin. He has his gin, Mr. Billionaire himself, after selling mint to T-Mobile.
Sam Heughan sells whiskey.
Who?
Sam Heughan from Outlander.
Oh,
he says he's got the whiskey.
Yeah. I don't watch Outlander. I only know it because of people like you that love to watch it.
You know what? I think if I watched The Last of Us, which I actually enjoyed, and you were right about, then you should have to watch Outlander.
I have no problem watching Outlander, and what everybody tells me is I'm really going to enjoy watching Outlander.
Yes, you will, my friend. Yes, you will.
It's just time. You know what I mean? It's just finding time. I want to watch Yellowstone too and all those, and it's just time.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't believe you haven't watched that yet.
I've watched some of it. I think I've watched like half of the first season, or maybe even the whole first. No, probably half the first season, and it's good. It's just again going back to it and remembering. Do my lips look blue? I swear to God, my house is getting colder and colder because the freaking heat. I'm like looking at myself.
PG&E, man.
Cheryl says, I love Tito's plain. I hate flavored vodka. I don't usually drink flavored vodka. My father-in-law sometimes drinks vanilla vodka, and so he'll make some sort of drinks with it, which are yummy, but then it gets a little too sweet for me sometimes. Rebecca likes Frankie's organic vodka. I've never heard of that. Sam, our friend Sam says Belvedere is the best vodka. It's Polish vodka. Okay. I like Press over White Claw. Is Press a seltzer? I don't think I've ever heard of Press. Let's see. Very little tequila. Tequila. There's a tequila story too. Have you heard about this? There could be a tequila shortage because of the extreme dryness happening in Mexico.
Oh, no.
Yeah, apparently extreme weather over the past few years in Mexico has hurt the crop, the agave crop. And so there may not be enough tequila to satisfy tequila drinkers. That's not going to impact me at all because I do not drink tequila. I love how people are like, oh, you haven't had good tequila. Oh, no, I have. And honestly, like it's smoother. I get it. I don't like the taste of agave. I don't like the taste of tequila. I just don't like it. I can taste it in any. It's like shocked. The pee in the mattress under the mattress. You know that fairy tale. I could taste a little drop of tequila in my drink. Like, nope.
So I think that you might actually be kind of proud of me.
Oh,
because over the weekend I did have some cocktails, and I have a
cocktails
picture.
With an S.
Well, yes, and I'm going to show you what I know. I went to this local restaurant, which I love and patronize often. Okay. It's called Mi Pueblo. And I was there with a couple of friends. It was this impromptu lunch, and it turned into margarita day. And I ordered what is called the flight of margaritas. So there were 4 margaritas here at Mi Pueblo. One is a mango. That was a really good. That's at the far left. And then it was the strawberry. Second from the left, that was delicious. The 2 on the right, extra gross. One was supposed to be raspberry, and it just had this bitter taste. And then the one on the far right was supposed to be hibiscus flower margarita, and it was an unfortunate. It's almost like the glass was so small, so they didn't really understand how to have the proportions of booze in this thing, and so it was just really extra boozy. And almost undrinkable.
Too much mix.
Yeah, it was a no. So I just want you to know that I did drink, and I did take a picture because I knew that you would have pride.
I am very, very proud of your cocktails, Kim McAllister. Absolutely. I would never do margaritas. I will tell you, there's a restaurant in Campbell, and there's another location. I want to say it's in Los Gatos, although I could be wrong. I've never been to that location, and it's called Flights, and that's their whole thing. Because they do flights of I haven't been there in a while, and I think they changed their menu up a little bit, but they would do they had this flight. They took it off the menu. So if anyone is listening and has an in with the owner, they used to have a flight of empanadas. They were oh my God. So different types of empanadas. Yeah. So they'd have and I mean, it's a little spendy because how much are you really getting? But they had a flight of mules, and that's how I got into my Kentucky mule that I turned into the Medoro mule because I added club soda to it. But they also had one with tequila in it that I never get that one because I don't like tequila. But the flight idea is fun. They do it with beer oftentimes if you go to breweries. like flights of different beers. Was that from the top down?
Yeah. I was doing the Jefferson Graham every angle.
Yes, move. I you know what's funny is that the ones on the right that you found the grossest are the prettiest to me, I feel like. Like I'd be like, oh, I'm going to try those ones first.
Yes,
No.
I had high hopes, very high hopes. But
you didn't even drink them. Did anybody drink them or?
We took a sip and it was a no-go.
See, I would just power through. What you do is you drink the first two till your tongue is numb, and then you just drink the other ones.
They were little though. They were like maybe.
Yeah, but you're great. You paid for it.
Yeah.
Can't let just the booze sit there. It wants to go in your belly. Oh, John says the Los Gatos flights has closed. Oh, that's a bummer. I know that they were having a hard time during COVID. I know that they're still in downtown Campbell because I drive by there all the time. Yeah. But I know that their menus kind of change. They don't only do flights. Sometimes they do smaller plates, but it's a fun concept. And because of the mules, they get me there all the time. I absolutely love it. Something is being pulled off Dollar Tree shelves because they're too expensive. And I didn't even know that they sold these. Did you know?
Do you know Dollar Tree things don't cost $1 anymore? It's $1.25 now.
$1.25. And actually it can go up to $3 to $5 in some locations, depending on what it is. But they're no longer, they have pulled eggs. They pulled eggs from the store shelves because eggs, well, as we know, are too expensive. Although, when's the last time you bought eggs? I feel like the egg price has gone down a bit.
I think so too. And who buys eggs at Dollar Tree?
Well, I mean, if they're so I'm trying to find the price that they were selling them for, but I guess when they hit $5, they're like, nope, we're going to pull them off the shelves. Family Dollar, though, which is owned by Dollar Tree and sells items for up to $10, will continue to sell the eggs. Do you have a problem buying food at Dollar Tree?
Yeah, I do have that problem.
Because you think that it's old food?
Or not up to quality. I mean, if you're paying $1 for a carton of eggs, I think we gotta, what corners were cut? You know, what happened there in the process where people didn't get properly paid or compensated? I have a serious doubt over whether those eggs, you know, we had that recently in the recent past, a story over, you know, eggs being coated with, what was it, salmonella or whatever it was.
Oh,
yeah.
So who's eating the outside of the egg? Is it getting on your hands and then you're doing it, or what?
Yeah, it gets on your hands. The outside of the egg touches the, you know, whatever.
A part that you're supposed to cook and kill the salmonella?
It was no bueno, Nikki. It was no bueno, and there was an egg recall across America. But you know where there wasn't an egg recall? Where the eggs are natural and organic. And
in your hoity-toity neighborhood? Yes,
That's right, in Petaluma, where you can get an egg that was locally produced and people knew what they were doing when they made it.
You just have to live in Petaluma.
Are you gonna? Well, no, because they're all around the Bay Area, because maybe they're produced here or they're produced locally in your community. So you don't have to go buy eggs that were mass produced at some farm where someone was paid, you know, woefully inadequately.
People need $1 eggs, Kim McAllister. People need to save.
I'm sad about that. That's gross.
Well, you know, Dollar Tree is getting, and Dollar General is getting a lot of attention because they're popping up in so many locations that they're saying, you know, those food deserts, places where there's no like fresh food. Dollar Trees are popping up there, and they're hurting local mom and pop stores. They're driving out other retailers. They stock no fresh produce in most of the locations, and they sell what they call cheater sizes, which are smaller sizes at a higher price per ounce. And so a lot of people are hating on Dollar Tree anyway. And yes, Kim, you could be so snooty, according to Tony. Snooty patootie over here. Or you could just get a neighbor that has their own chickens. Grady says, love me some home chickens. Don't worry about eggs. I mean, what is the etiquette of asking your neighbor if you can have some eggs? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
If they have plenty, they usually will put a sign out saying extra eggs, or they'll put a thing on next door saying we've got extra eggs if you want any.
I would be selling them for the price of eggs as they are right now. I mean, I'm not a huge egg eater. I just usually have them for baking, or if like I'm making something breaded or I need meatballs or something like that. often just eat eggs, unless I'm making deviled eggs, which means I'm having a party, which is a whole different story. All right, let me give some thank yous really quickly. Pamela started us off with a $10 super sticker.
Hey, thank you.
Sam, our good friend Sam Townsend, new spot on Polk. Proud to contribute to the best show, always your number one SF fan. Sam, $10 donation. Wes also came in with a $5 super sticker. Hey, you guys, we are completely 100% crowdfunded. So I want to continue doing this show. I want it to be what it is currently, and that requires some help. And I hate begging and asking and doing all those things, but we're a community here. And so I know that you guys understand. So please consider donating to our Patreon. That really is one of our main sources of revenue besides the super chat and things like that. So go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. Consider donating to our Patreon. Consider donating directly through PayPal, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. Great show. Trying to get Emily Hoven on with the San Francisco Chronicle. We're trying to get her on either tomorrow or Thursday to update us on that domestic violence bill and the hypocrisy. You guys will love this. The hypocrisy within the Democratic Party. So that's all coming up. Again, click that thumbs up button before we end the show, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.